In the martial arts, what works for one person may not work for another. In this section of the series on Kwan Bu, we're going to cover how to develop your own Kwan Bu using your own abilities and techniques to improve the skills you use for self-defense training. Stay tuned! Welcome to Shihan's Dojo. I'm Shihan Marty Husband, and we're here today to help you build your martial arts, or if you're wanting to take the martial arts, how to better understand it. So if you want to build up your knowledge and skills in the martial arts, this is a place you should be. So jab that subscribe button and punch that bell if you haven't already, so that we can notify you when we have a new video. Our weekly question this week: what type of routines do you use for your own personal style of self-defense? Let us know in the comments these types of routines you use. Today we're going to continue to talk about the Kwan Bu. In this section, we're going to cover how you instantiate the techniques you use for self-defense to create your own Kwan Bu. If you haven't already seen the first two videos on learning Kwan Bu and building the Kwan Bu, I might suggest that you go up here, click them, and watch them before proceeding. Otherwise, let's get started. Creating Kwan Bu is not difficult in theory, but one has to have a very serious mind of what they're trying to accomplish in order to set it up correctly. The person that is developing their Kwan Bu has to keep in mind the flowing mobility and the ability that is used to deliver the techniques. Flowing techniques must not be jagged or rough, but continuous in a direction that you are going. That way you will not waste your movements and create realistic actions of self-defense. You have to make sure the purpose of each of the actions you're taking for it to be successful. The first thing a person should do is starting off testing the flow of the techniques they're going to use. This means start off with a single technique, see how it feels, and then add 4 winds training like we talked about in the first video. Always try to make sure that the first move you have out is a parry or an action for a flinch response to create the idea of trying to control or stop a technique or techniques from coming in. The 4 winds will only teach you the directions that you will need to be doing for your Kwan Bu, but in this way you can test the flow and your techniques and how they're working when you change directions. Once you get the flow of the first technique, then take it to the second technique, add it to what you were doing, and then run it through the 4 winds drill to figure out your change and what it feels like when you're moving. This will again allow you to get a feel if it's flowing and moving properly. You don't want to rush these techniques you're wanting to test, and they have to feel as if you're doing them here. And if you make a mistake, keep going. Continue this process and create the flow you want with the 4 winds training. Now, after you've covered each of the aspects of your techniques, you're going to use the flow, then you'll begin to put it in the Kwan Bu directions that we showed you in the second video. Now remember, you don't have to do the techniques that are being performed in this video. In reality, this is all about you and your techniques and how to put them into this system. As you see in this next one, I'm dropping my hands down and putting myself into what is called the proof of stance, which I again have talked about in another video called Proof of Stance. This proof of stance should be implemented into your Kwan Bu as you start training. Get the feel of it. It will teach you and help you not to change your height when moving, and allows the person changing directions not to telegraph the techniques or anything that they are coming in with. After you have established the flow, little details, and the feelings, you should take it to the next level. In performing your Kwan Bu, attitude, attention, and concentration is primary. But the most important thing is to always keep a calm mind, which will help you keep focus on what you're trying to make sure that each technique is kinetically correct and performed point to point with no wasted motion. Nothing withheld that should be important to those techniques. Make sure when you're adding these that you understand your hara, or your center of your body. When you are transferring your weight, keep your hips and bodies while they're moving from going up and down. For strength and endurance, you can always add weighted vests, longer stance, or some type of resistance to build your stances and your abilities. Always start training slow, and then work yourself up to full speed if possible. It's one thing to do it slow like Tai Chi, and it's very good practice to make sure your techniques are proper and doing everything that they need to. But eventually you need to develop so you can do your Kwan Bu as fast as possible. Now once you learn that Kwan Bu, you still need to go from slow to fast. Don't do it fast every time. Get yourself, your body, a feeling so you can feel that motion going in and out. The constant changing directions that you use in this can sometimes help you figure out the fallacies of your techniques, or for yourself how to do them properly. Remember that these Kwan Bus are personal. However, they can be shared with other people or groups. If you do share a set of Kwan Bus, you can actually practice self-defense much easier with a group study of self-defense itself. It might be good for you to also find a partner or two to work with for self-defense and training. We want to try and completely test for what you're using in your Kwan Bu and make sure that it's not some sort of dance. Now, you don't have to understand how to create your technical sets if you're not that far along or if you're not in advanced training. You can always do the same principles to train either using the Four Winds or Kwan Bu directions with normal basics that you might do in your style every day. And it's great for training in small spaces if you live in a small apartment. This will allow you to work on techniques or self-defense patterns that are required for you if you do a classical style, or it can simply help you develop the techniques you're trying to learn. Changing directions is very important in all martial arts, especially for learning self-defense, and it will help in sports. But Kwan Bu itself is geared mostly towards learning your own self-defense and working towards the perfection of your own techniques. Now, I'm planning later videos that will cover how to use your Kwan Bu in training with single and multiple partners if possible. Sometimes it's great even to share your Kwan Bu to see if it might help you or your partners, or vice versa, no matter what your rank is. We are planning other videos on how to use knee drops in the Kwan Bu for practice kicking and other ways of using Kwan Bu to totally develop your fighting system, as well as how to use balance kicking drills that you can implement with the Four Winds drill or the Kwan Bu if you so desire. And we will eventually look over the other forward thinking procedures that you might be able to use with your Kwan Bu and some of the advanced principles. This is only scratching the surface of one of the best ways to train in the martial arts. Don't forget to comment about the question we had today. What types of routines do you use for your own personal style of self-defense? Let's get a conversation started so we can find a better way of training. Also, don't hesitate to tell us what you like to see or questions that you might have. We will see you again here on Shihan's Dojo.